Welcome, everybody, to the Third and Gold podcast presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Tyler James, and I'm joined as always by the one and only Eric Hansen. Together we cover Notre Dame football, recruiting, and more for blueandgold.com on the On3 network. Notre Dame will look to win a fourth consecutive game on Saturday when NC State steps into Notre Dame Stadium. The Irish continue to play offense at a high level while the defense has shown significant improvement in the last couple of weeks. To chat about the Irish, we reached out to one of our favorite recurring guests, former Notre Dame safety Tom Zbikowski. Tom is currently the head coach at St. Patrick High School in Chicago. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Tom, how would you describe the experience of watching this Notre Dame football team this season?
I got a close look at them game one. Saw a lot of fight, saw a lot of potential in CJ Carr. I really liked what I saw out of CJ Carr. I think he's going to really turn into something special. And when you got two really good running backs, I love a running back. I really, really love a running back. And we got two of them. It's even more fun. Nothing like running all over people. Nothing more demoralizing than running the ball all over people.
Tom, what did you make of Notre Dame's struggles with the defense at the start and what they've been able to do maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks?
It takes time. You know, it's a new defensive coordinator. He's got to put his twist on things. It takes time to all get on the same page. The subtle nuances of coverages that no one understands. Quite literally, no one understands secondary play. Even in the coaching industry, it's hard for people to understand what it's like in the secondary unless you've really played it or spent years understanding what goes on back there. It is not peewee football where you got to keep everyone in front of you. It's a lot of communication. It's a lot of got to be in the run support, like I was talking about before. If you get a team that starts running the ball on you and you can't stop it, you have no chance of winning that game. You got no chance of really doing much. So it's always going to start off with stopping the run, and you need safeties to be active in that role, but you also have to have, keep them disciplined and knowing that they do have past responsibilities, but they are, part of the run support game. And a lot of it just takes time and experience and time to reps, and a lot of times you get better as a team in choppy waters. You don't gain chemistry in calm waters. So you need those early struggles to, really come together as a team. That's how football goes. There's always going to be a fork in the road. You go this way and everyone's crying and complaining, or you go another way and everyone hunkers down and does what they need to do.
So when you played, you went from Kent Baer to Rick Minter
Yep.
to Corwin Brown. Was either of those transitions more difficult than the other for you?
Not for me. The last one was probably the most difficult for our team because we went from a 4-3 to an odd look.
Yeah.
And we really did not have the personnel for it. So it was just a disaster all around. It was just brutal.
It was.
I mean, there was three games. There was 3 games. We watched the USC game. I had Bill Lewis is one of the best coaches I've ever seen, period. And he would coach every position. Every spot he would coach. We're watching the USC game, and you're 2.5 hours into the film, and we're at halftime. Was how that season went. We had 3 straight games. You're at 65 plays, and we're at halftime. That's a good outing. That's a good output for a whole game if you're doing well on defense. But we had 3 different times where we had 100+ plays on defense. It was brutal.
Tom, you mentioned the choppy waters, and that's when you can sort of get things sorted out. But I think it could go the other way too. Like things can fall apart. What's the importance of player leadership to making sure that when things are going wrong, that guys aren't just blaming each other and they're finding solutions?
It's everything. Player-led teams are the only ones that survive. A coach can make a standard or give you some, give you some things to live by, but Lombardi said it best. It's really easy to motivate motivated people. You need motivated people. You need guys that care, more about just Instagram posts and TikTok reels and all that bull that goes with it nowadays. You need guys that want to do the dirty work and that are willing to do it. And believe me, there's plenty of kids these days that are still that same old school way. They like the physicality of this game. They like the violence of this game. They like the discipline of this game. You got to pull it out of them.
Tay Johnson became a starter, I want to say, because of a targeting penalty on Adon Schuler. And then when Adon came back, Tay just stayed as his sidekick. And I'm curious what your impressions of the redshirt freshman safety is, what you've seen of him so far.
I wish I'd been able to see some more games. I've been getting caught up in my season. There's only so much that I can watch, especially with a newborn baby. I barely got time to sleep right now, let alone watch anyone else. But
let's talk about the newborn baby.
Yeah.
What? This is number 4.
This is number 4. Ray Steven. Sugar Ray Robinson was my father's favorite fighter. I got pretty close with Ray Boom Boom Mancini, so right now I call him Boom Boom.
All right.
Right. And
there's also a diaper
Steven
time
was
Boom Boom.
Right. Steven was my brother that we lost in 1980, so he's got that namesake. And Boom Boom had an interesting story. I watched a story on Boom Boom. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but his father was a professional fighter that never could reach the apex, could never get to a world title. And Boom Boom's whole reason for fighting was to get a world championship for his father. Not that I'm saying my son's got to do this, but I'll disown him if he doesn't.
Tom, you mentioned being impressed by CJ Carr. What was it about Carr that really stood out to you?
It didn't seem like that was just the experience that he has. I know the pedigree that he comes from. Playing against Lloyd Carr coach teams, I know how disciplined they were. I know how prepared they were. He seems to be really prepared for a young player. He seems to be very comfortable as a young player. He throws a really, really nice ball. He seems like he doesn't have any fear, and he seems like when things go down, he's going to rise to the occasion. He almost thrives in those situations. It seems like he's got ice running through his veins.
So you're sitting at your office at St. Patrick High School in Chicago. The last time we had you on, you had not yet taken that job. So I'm not sure what your future holds when you're on this issue. Maybe you'll get a raise out of it. But I mean, you guys are 4-2, 2-0 in the league. This was a team that won 2 games last year. So what was the state of the program when you walked in, and what do you feel like you've been able to get done so far in this first season as St. Patrick's head coach?
They had 4 wins in 2 years, so we've already got to that point. I knew the kids were looking for something. They weren't just in shambles. They had some talent, and they had a lot of resiliency. I came in the winter time, just did some like military style, fire department style, crazy workouts in the gym, just yelling at them, screaming at them, making them do push-ups. You break them down and build them back up. And then
Tyler does that to me.
You got to. You got to. It's the only way to do it. Because it's chaos. You're really, what it is you're yelling, you're screaming, you're finding out who can keep their wits about them when there's all the chaos. That's what football is. It's controlled chaos. So the ones that can, and a lot of it's the little things. You teach them how to breathe in these situations. For boxing, the first time I ever sparred, I held my breath the entire round. I almost passed out. I turned purple. Right? You gotta and if you don't teach these kids, if you don't teach them how to breathe, you gotta understand that's the difference. When the adrenaline drops, and you're in that first quarter, you're either catching your breath and building enough oxygenated blood to yourself, or you're panicking. And that's how it goes. If you don't know how to breathe, you're going into panic mode. You go into panic mode, you go into survival mode. It ain't really like you can whatchamacallit, like you can get out of it.
Tom, you had some experience at Western Michigan and Brown in terms of coaching at the college level. I'm curious, how does coaching at high school compare to college? What have you noticed being the biggest differences?
Time spent with the kids. You know, you'd only get so much. They're in school till 2:50. Well, I mean, I guess it's a little similar to college, but not really, because the kids can all stop over where they got classes. You get a little more time with the kids. The biggest difference is being a head coach is there's so much less coaching of football and more philosophies and more of the administrative stuff that you got to do. But I, for some reason, enjoy that side of it. Um, but I like it a lot. The Chicago Catholic League's a very good league. A lot of good players, a lot of really good players, a lot of really good teams. It's as close to college as I think you can get in terms of coaching in high school. So I'm pretty happy with the competition and the level of talent that's in the league that we play in.
Tom, I know that
And
Dan
these kids nowadays are so advanced. I mean, high school football, every quarterback's got a quarterback coach. Every quarterback can really throw it and play. Even as a coach, you could go to YouTube and get as many, drills and stuff like that. So these kids really are doing it often and a lot more than when I was in high school. I was putting in the time like they were, but you didn't have the same resources that they have now. They got endless videos they can watch.
Well, speaking of resources, I would imagine with the Catholic schools in Chicago, kids have choices of where they want to go, and it's almost like recruiting. I would think your past, your history, and your ability to say, hey, I can get you to be on the recruiting radar would be a big part of your pitch. What are some of the other things you feel like if you're talking to parents or talking to a kid that you can tell them about St. Patrick and where this program's headed?
It's as soon as I got here, I wish I went to an all boys high school because of the lack of distractions. It's not a thing here. The boys get to act like boys. They dress in khakis and a polo every day. It's not like they got to dress. It's not like they got to spend any time trying to impress anyone. It's really is a focus group, and the parents are all, really in that same mindset of they want better for their kids. They want a better opportunity for their kids. They don't want an easier life for their kids, but they want a better life for their kids. I'm trying to start a boxing program here. I got pretty good support starting a boxing program here. That's going to be big for us. And the relationships I have with the coaches I have in college. It's even when I got here in the springtime, wintertime, how many coaches were coming through here. They're going to have that type of exposure, just whether they can be disciplined enough to do it every day. I'm going to be honest with the college coaches. I'm not going to sell someone I don't believe in. So as long as you put in the work and you are who you want to be and want to go to the next level, I'm definitely the guy that can help you get there.
Tommy, I was talking with your dad, Eddie, about this yesterday. How does the boxing tie into football? I mean, I know it was huge in terms of your development. I'm sure there's guys that could only do the boxing and only do the football, but what about kids that want to do both? How does this help them?
Wrestling and boxing make you a better athlete in every other sport that you compete in. Football has a unique skill set. Doing it doesn't necessarily make you a better athlete. Whereas if you play basketball, you're going to be jumping higher. You're going to be running more. Football is so physically demanding and so violent that you don't necessarily become a better athlete doing it. You need to do other things to become a better athlete. And a lot of that is you learning how to strike and learning how to use your hands and learning how to separate your lower body from your upper body. That's what boxing is really using your feet one way and using your hands another way, and the total body control that it takes in boxing is going to help you with, your leverage, with your balance, with conditioning, with discipline. There's not much that boxing's not going to help you out in football, especially the big boys.
Tom, not all former players want to get into coaching. What made you get into coaching? Why has that been something that's important to you?
It all just kind of happened. I mean, I was getting ready to make a return to the fight game, and my oldest son, my 5-year-old Tommy, once he was born, I really, it was time to give up the gloves and time to give up my athletic career, and really had, I guess that was kind of the path. I knew I wanted to be a coach. I don't know. I was always planning. As soon as Charlie Weiss got hired, I had already started comparing notes between Tyrone Willingham and Charlie Weiss, and then from Charlie Weiss to John Harbaugh, from John Harbaugh to Chuck Pagano. I had just kind of always been taking notes on how they run a program, the scheduling that they do, what would be more efficient, how do you get a team to peak performance. I was always intrigued on the big picture of coaching. And then the first time I did it at Western Michigan, really had like a sit down chalk talk one-on-one with a kid. I almost passed out afterwards. It was hard to explain, right? It was hard to explain the feeling of what it's like to have the knowledge you have and now pass it on to somebody that's very similar to you. I think it's the connections of being around people that are similar to you. I see a lot of myself and all the kids that I coach, and really it's more of a calling than it is a job for me.
Tom, we're going to shift gears back to Notre Dame and talk about one of your favorite games, not the Bush Push game, which the 20th anniversary is this year. They play USC, not this weekend. They play NC State, but next weekend. First of all, I get asked about this all the time. What's Jeff Samardzija doing?
Sending me cigars most of the time. Sending me cigars and coming to visit me every once in a while. He's out in Arizona though, living a nice retired life for now.
Okay, and that's what he's doing. Just kicking back. Does he have kids?
He's got 2 kids. They're older. He's got 2 boys. He gets to traveling about a lot. He's I want to say 4 or 5 years removed, 4 years removed from his last MLB game. I got onto the fire department, was on for 2 years, and then I took a 5-year break from working. I think he's going to be on that similar path. There is really no harder point in life than after your playing career. There's no way around it. It's just how it is. You lose your identity. You're questioning pretty much everything. You're trying to figure out what's next. It's not an easy process, but I'm always going to be there for him. And it don't matter how much money you make. Everyone that's a former athlete is going to go through that process. So he's probably in the midst of post-playing career right now.
Yeah, we've had that conversation with Trevor Rowland, who is from Chicago. He did a podcast and some series of articles with that transition and the tough part. And Jay Hayes, I was talking to about it, who's now back at Notre Dame. That Bush Push game, have you ever watched it back? Have you
I don't think
watched
so.
the film?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
And what burns in your mind about that day, about that game? What's
the Corey Mays hit? I mean, the play before the Bush Push, Corey Mays hit.
The ball goes flying back 2-3 yards. I think we all knew that's where it should have been spotted. And
Right.
then, but at that point, it's semantics. We played a really, really, really good team, one of the best teams college football's had, and we played them as good as we could have played them. And that's just how it goes. We were all upset, but I sleep easy at night with that game. It is honestly one of my favorite games to go toe to toe with an elite college football program.
Tom, what are some of your favorite games from your career besides that USC game? What other games stand out to you?
My first Michigan State game, Tennessee game in 2005, BYU game in 2005, Fiesta Bowl for me, 617 yards of offense given up on defense wasn't exactly fun, but just like, the talent, playing. I always wanted to play in the Fiesta Bowl. I liked Tempe. I liked Arizona. It was like perfect conditions, 60 degrees in January. It's like, you're playing on a grass field. You got a future Heisman Trophy winner that's at quarterback and 3 first-round draft picks that are wide receivers. It was fun to play in. Even in 2007, I think it was one of the first Penn State nighttime whiteouts that we ever played in 2007 was an awesome experience. It was Washington in 2005, just, being able, going to Notre Dame, you get to travel. I know that there was talks about how much they're traveling this year, but that's why you go there. We get to take West Coast trips. You get to see what Seattle looks like. You get to see the Coliseum, late November. You get to see Stanford. You get to see all these places that you get to go to. You get to go to Knoxville. You get to play at all these places. Georgia Tech was an insane environment. That was really
06.
Man, Georgia Tech was insane. It was like and they were a really good team. That was a close game. That's Calvin Johnson as a receiver and I've never heard a louder 55,000 people in my life. A huge fight afterwards. Getting onto the buses was incredible down in Georgia Tech. Even New Orleans, the beating that we took in New Orleans, the whole week was incredible to be, eating alligator and jambalaya and whatever else you got going on right during the week. Hearing stories of my dad getting into scuffles with LSU fans. It was all right. It's all good
Eddie,
stuff. Right.
Eddie is on my Mount Rushmore of dads from Notre Dame for sure. The one,
Man, it don't matter where we are. We're gonna fight.
Exactly.
It don't matter where we are.
Before I ask you my next question, I did want to say one of my favorite games was when you on senior day where you got to play a little bit of quarterback.
Yeah.
And if there hadn't been a fumble, you might have gotten all the way down the field.
We were rolling. We started rolling.
That was one of the coolest moments that I can remember in my career is just the crowd's reaction and you kind of trying to settle them down so that you could do the signal. That was awesome. My last question for you before we talk about family and stuff is what's maybe the biggest thing you've taken for your coaching from both Ty and from Charlie? You mentioned you took notes. What are one big important thing you learned from each of them, good or bad?
Ty, I think he was able to have relationships with everyone, the shaking hands and going around and being personable and being more of the CEO. That's the role I take. I don't call offensive plays. I don't call defensive plays. I don't call special teams. I help out with everyone, but I keep more of the CEO approach. Charlie, a lot of it was, he wasn't looking for guys to test the waters. He used to say, he's looking for guys to dive right in, where you're not sticking your foot in the pool to test what the temperature of the water is. You're back flipping into it. So, I'm looking for guys that'll dive right in.
Tom, one thing that I have found interesting about Marcus Freeman is the way he's embraced special teams. Whether coming up with different ways to block punts, different fake attempts. You obviously embrace special teams. What is the importance of a head coach sort of embracing special teams in the way Marcus Freeman has?
It's how you get the young players and even the seniors that aren't playing so much on offense and defense, really an important role. That was always the path in the NFL, is you got to spend time on special teams. Back when guys were getting 30, 35 tackles a season on special teams, it was a rite of passage. You had to learn. If you can't dominate, if you can't play well on special teams, there's no way you're going to dominate on offense or defense. It's just not a thing. If you can't be someone that they have to deal with on special teams, how are you going to be someone that's going to be on offense or defense? It don't make any sense to me, because it's blocking and tackling, and that's just what it is. And there is, special teams can't necessarily win you a game, but it 100% will cost you a game, and it shows how interested your team is in competing as how interested they play on special teams. You don't find good teams. You don't find individuals that love competing, that go half-ass on special teams. That ain't a thing. So you got to find guys that love football, that don't love the results of football, or love the touchdowns of football. You want guys that are daydreaming about putting their hands on another player and completely manhandling them. That's what special teams is all about, and that's how you find your way on an offense or a defensive role.
Tommy, the last one from me, when you said your oldest was 5 and you have 4, I can do the math. I think we should have had your wife on the podcast to find out how she keeps her sanity with 4 kids, 5 and under. Oh, she doesn't. Okay.
She doesn't.
But speaking of family, what's it like for, like your oldest son? He probably gets a sense of what you're doing a little bit.
Yeah.
Then having Eddie, I know Eddie knows what you're doing. Your mom, just being back in Chicago, how your family is involved in what you're doing.
It's my pops is at every game. My coaches love seeing him. He's gotten a couple relationships with the kids on my team, really take a liking to him. Even the other parents, he's fully involved. It's keeping him young. My son, I take my son on the weekends when we got to go check out the Pee Wee football games. He comes and check out the Pee Wee. He travels with me all day, and even I get him around practice. The boys on my team love having him around. He does his famous move, which is the warthog head. He just comes in head down and slams people in their thighs. He's going to be a good tackler. I don't flag football isn't really working out for us right now, but he sure as hell is going to be a really good tackler. I like it too, because I get to be around the boxing crew that the people that I know in almost every neighborhood of Chicago from the boxing. I love that I've taken him to three of the boxing matches around, and a boy's going to be pretty interested in boxing. I know that much.
Well, all right, Tom, that's all we have for you. We really appreciate you taking time to talk to us today, and best of luck with your season at St. Patrick.
I appreciate it. Always a pleasure with you guys.
Before we get back to the podcast, I wanted to share a word from our friends at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana and a new store open in Mishawaka, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. All right, now it's time for questions. You can submit questions to us on Twitter or the Loose Emoji board before every podcast. I'm at TJamesND and Eric's at EHansenND. First one I have for us, Eric, is from Bob Oxnard on the Loose Emoji board. Is Jordan Botelho improving each passing week? And do you think Josh Burnham's return will help us contain / hold the edge?
I think Jordan Botelho has been pretty consistent against the run this year. I don't know that we've seen the pass rush bursts that we saw in 2024. I don't know that he's playing at that level. What I do know is his volume's going up. He tied against Boise State. He played 31 out of the 78 snaps, and that ties the high that he's had since he's been back from the patella tear last September. I think there's still more in the tank for him, and I think it's remarkable what he's been able to give Notre Dame, coming back from 2 major injuries, including that patella tendon and then the pec tear. So I still think there's more out there for him. As far as Josh Burnham, his volume was up a little bit in the Boise State game as well. The most he's played since the Miami game. He was, I want to say, in the teens. And I think the more you get of Josh Burnham and the more healthy version of him, I think he's going to be a help. But I think they have plenty of defensive ends. I think it's just a matter of, even with Boubacar Traore, as good as he's been, and he got National Comeback Player of the Month, I think there's still more out there for him, both them getting used to the scheme and them also just feeling more like themselves after having such a long layoff.
Yeah, with Burnham, I'm not sure what to make of what he can help with. It seems like he's been dealing with nagging injuries for going on about a year now, and I expected him to have an important impact with the team this season. I'm not sure that's been the case so far. So I think there's the hope that he can, but I think we just have to see it. He's got to be able to be healthy and put himself in a position to help the defense. I think Botello seems to be getting better. He is showing up more in the pass rush. They need him to be a well-rounded defensive end, so that's important. I know he was one of the guys that had a bad mistake in terms of the read option against Taylon Green in Arkansas, but he's getting back to the level that I think we expected from him, and I think that's an important role for Notre Dame, and he provides, he plays with an edge, right? Like, that's something that I know, like, everyone on defense wants to play with an edge, but it's pretty obvious the edge that Jordan Botello plays with, and so I think that's important for Notre Dame's defense. Next question is from LDL Go Irish on the loose emoji board. The Notre Dame maligned defense is now ranked 10th in points given up in the second half of games. They are 92nd in the first half, the second quarter being far worse than the first. In Coach Marcus Freeman's spirit of challenging everything, how can Notre Dame improve their first half adjustments? Is it possible that the people on the sideline are not tech savvy enough to teach / adjust using tablets?
I do not think that is an issue there. I think they're just incrementally getting better, and they've made adjustments at halftime, and I think it's a matter of time until they are able to do those within the first half. I think one thing that might play into that, and I haven't studied it, but this is just my sense, is a lot of times early in the season, you'll get, when we ask Marcus Freeman about something, he'll say, they showed us a look that we've never seen before. Well, we're getting to the point in the season where people can't save things for Notre Dame. They will have had to show that in games. So I think there's fewer surprises as you get deeper into the season. And then they say, oh, yeah, we saw this on film. Let's adjust here. It's not something that's brand new. Al Golden was really, really good at early game adjustments, and all throughout the game, he always had counter punches. I'm willing to take a leap of faith that that's going to happen with this defensive staff.
Yeah, I agree that I don't think it's related to inability to understand the tablets. I just think some of that second quarter stuff is like still being impacted by how poorly the season started. And so, like, it's not like Notre Dame was all of a sudden terrible on defense against Boise State in the second quarter compared to the rest of the game. Like, I think some of those numbers are still being impacted by the way the season started. But I do think, like, it's not just Notre Dame adjusting to what the defense is doing, like the offense, or what the offense is doing. The offense is then going to make its sort of counter to what Notre Dame is doing. So it's a cat and mouse game. So I think it might just be that Notre Dame is adjusting to what the teams have started out with doing in the first quarter, and then the opposing offense is finding something else that works. So I'm not sure that it still feels a little bit random to me that the second quarter is worse than all the other quarters. It doesn't seem like something that is like needs to be a main focus. One thing just in general that I think has led to scoring in some second quarters has been big plays, and that's something that Notre Dame has worked on improving and has gotten better at in terms of giving up fewer big plays throughout the game, and some of those have just happened to come in the second quarter throughout the season. All right, next question is from @Murray O'Connell. What does Eric think will happen first? CJ Carr wins the Heisman, or Notre Dame wins a national championship in football, not fencing?
Do you get to heckle me since he just asking me this question?
Yeah, I think this is at least the second time where Murray's asked specifically for you. So I'm just gonna sit here and twiddle my thumbs.
Well, maybe he's going to bet on the opposite of whatever I say. For me, you would think kind of intuitively that those things would happen in the same year, the same season, and then and then if you went sequentially, the Heisman's given out before the national championship is won. But I actually think that the way the Heisman sometimes works now is that right now, CJ Carr, all the national pundits are in love with him. I think by the time we get to next year or the year after, they're going to be looking, where can we poke holes in his game? Let's look at the flaws. You get used to somebody and you don't appreciate them as much, even if they're a better player. And so I'm not sure that he will win one, even though he may have numbers that are, worthy of it. I mean, it's actually been longer since Notre Dame's won a Heisman by 1 year than since it's won a national championship. But I think they will win the national championship before CJ Carr wins the Heisman.
Yeah,
Tyler, go ahead and heckle that.
I would agree. I mean, just if you think statistically of it, Notre Dame's won more national championships than Heisman trophies, so I think the odds would be in favor of winning a national title rather than winning a Heisman. I would, like you said, like if Carr is going to win the Heisman, it would probably come in a year that Notre Dame would have a chance to win the national championship. It's hard to imagine those not being sort of in the same realm, like especially with the college football playoff now, like to imagine someone being a Heisman winner and not being able to make a growing college football playoff field, that would be surprising, and obviously that you would.
Although Travis Hunter did it last year, but it's unusual.
Yeah, so
he was such an unusual player,
right? Yeah, it would take someone like that to.
And I didn't vote first place for him.
Not be a quarterback and not be on a playoff team.
Who'd you vote for last year?
I voted for Travis Hunter.
Okay, I voted for Ashton Genty. That was first. Yeah, I think I had Hunter on my ballot.
Yeah, I voted Genty second. The next question is from Marie Biafore at Biafore_Marie. With Love going to the NFL next year, do you think there is any way Notre Dame could pay Jadarian Price enough to convince him to stay for one more year? Is there an update on Devontae Smith's injury? Will he be able to go against USC?
Okay, let's take these separate, go back and forth on them. With Jadarian Price, I think they would have something in the budget to do it. But I don't think Jadarian would take it, and not because he doesn't love Notre Dame. Running back is the position where the NFL really looks at tread on the tire. And it is a much better business decision for him to go after this year. Same with Jeremiah Love, to go after this year. So I would think, unless he has a burning desire to get a master's degree and doesn't really aspire to be in the NFL, but otherwise, I think he's gone. I don't think that there's a consideration to come back.
Yeah, unless he gets some sort of draft feedback that's like, hey, we don't think you are as talented as some of us media folks think he is. I would be a bit surprised by that. I mean, certainly it could be possible. I wouldn't rule it out. I'm just not sure. I think it would probably be more than just the amount of money that Notre Dame could put in front of him that would inform his decision. And I think it would be a risky one to come back, given his injury history. I know if you get hurt in the NFL, there's not a lot of guarantees either. So that would be an equation that he'd have to figure out. But I think to me, I would be a bit surprised if he were to come back. All right. What about Devontae Smith? Do you have any updates?
We will, by the time the podcast drops, we will have gotten an update. I don't anticipate him getting upgraded to play. I think that they want to be really careful in making sure that he's out of the woods with that, because it's been kind of a recurring thing with him being injured. And they want to make sure that he's healthy for most of the balance of the rest of the season, if possible. So I would not anticipate him playing Saturday, but we may hear something different from Marcus Freeman today. So check out my notebook, check out blueandgold.com. We'll have all that information.
Yeah, I think he was already ruled out for this Saturday. I think it's a matter of if he'll be able to play next Saturday against USC. And I just don't have any clarity on that in terms of if he will be able to go against USC or not. His availability has been a bit unpredictable so far this season, so I don't know that this far out from the USC game, even though it's a little more than a week, I don't know that I can feel confident on whether he'll be out there or not. All right, next question is from Olivier Doust at Ali Doust. Any update on Charles Jagusa? I remember a return for Boise State, but seem a while since any news.
Okay, Olivier, you need to read blueandgold.com. We had a intel piece last week on it. I've mentioned it twice in my live chat transcripts. He had a setback with his injury from July where he broke the bone in his upper left arm, which is called the humerus. They had to go back in and do some cleanup stuff with regard to a broken plate. And this wasn't negligence on Charles' part. This just happens sometimes with injuries and coming back from them. And so there's an elongated timeline. My sense is I don't think that we'll see him this season. The door is not closed for him to play in the postseason. But I think if Notre Dame's offensive line is in a good place where they wouldn't need him in the playoff, it might just be best for him to come back in 2026 and have a long runway and be acclimated and so forth. So I don't expect him, but he has not been ruled out for the postseason.
All right, next question is from Marie Biafore again. If Jaden Greathouse can't get his injury to settle down over the next couple of weeks, do you think he would consider taking a red shirt?
From our colleagues who have Jack Sobel and Tyler Horka have been on top of this, this doesn't seem like it's a long-term injury. It's not expected to be. And I don't know that anybody would be in favor of redshirting him at this point. I think if he's healthy, even if he didn't come back until November, if you had him in November and what he did in the playoff last year, I'd sure want him to play this season. I don't know that it benefits him. I don't know that he's going to be a 5-year guy anyways. Going into the season, we were kind of wondering if he was going to be a 3-year guy, and it hasn't worked out that way where his stock has gone that way, but I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, I like the concept of his injury not settling down. Like, does that mean it's worse? Does it mean it would be worse if he played? There would be a lot of variables that would need to go into it, in my opinion, to prevent him from coming back to playing this season. I mean, maybe there's a world where he's still out for a couple of games and Notre Dame loses another game, and then there's not going to be a playoff run, and then maybe there's a reconsideration of what to do. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I wouldn't completely rule anything out, but that doesn't seem like the way things are heading. Penny Garver at pgarver39 says, do you think, as I do, Coach Freeman has his hands on the defense and Chris Ash is gone or in a much reduced role next year?
Penny, I think, especially on this staff, football's more collaborative than we sometimes give it credit for being. It's not like you put somebody on an island, and if they're not doing their part, you just say, well, you stink, and that kind of thing. I don't see that as a scenario. I don't know why you would pay somebody what you're paying Chris Ash to be in a lesser role. Why would you keep that person around, and why would they want to be around? And I think a lot of this resurgence is Chris Ash. I think it's people working together, people coming up with answers together. And, the intel that I've got from inside the program is people are pretty impressed with Chris Ash and how he's handled this. So I do not see it trending that way, unless we had a big reversal in the latter part of the season, and Chris Ash was doing things that weren't against what Marcus Freeman wants. And I don't think any of that is happening right now.
Yeah, I think Freeman is involved with the defense. I don't know if has his hands on the defense, if that means like he's the one calling plays, what Penny means specifically by that. But he's involved. I don't think it does anyone any good right now to think or worry about what Chris Ash's role is next season. Like that, I think they're worried about getting the most out of this season, and then they can figure if there's something worth changing going into next season. But right now I wouldn't necessarily anticipate Chris Ash being gone unless things take a turn for the worse.
Yeah, I mean, you make your evaluations at the end of the season.
All right, next question is from ND Expert at Notre Dame Expert. Take your teammate positional combo, and he gave us 5 options here. Number 1, Walton, Duff, Sapp, and Earl. Number 2, Price and Love. Number 3, Samardra, Stovall, and McKnight. Number 4, John Carlson and Anthony Fasano. And number 5, Nelson and McGlinchey.
Well, of course, I try to complicate the question and say, okay, what's the alternative for each of these scenarios? And then I just try to take the question, because it's a great question on its face value, because it's a fun question. And I boiled it down to 2. It was either the 2 running backs, Price and Love, or the 2 offensive linemen, McGlinchey and Nelson. And you're talking about in that group of 4, 3 All-Americans most likely. We know that there's 2 of them that have been All-Americans and top 10 draft choices. So I'm going with McGlinchey and Nelson. As exciting as Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price are, I'm going with the 2 linemen.
Yeah, I think people knowing my appreciation for offensive linemen would probably expect me to pick that as well, and that would be my pick. I know, like you could like sort of say, well, if you can, you probably would expect Notre Dame to have good offensive linemen if they don't have Nelson and McGlinchey, and so then you prioritize maybe the receiving core because Notre Dame doesn't always have good receivers. But I would take 2 All-Americans and 2 first-round draft picks on the offensive line, and then figure out the rest from there. All right, our last question is from @Charles W. Wolf. Do you think there is any appetite to examine the roughing rule this offseason to get better clarity or allow some grace for a defender who is not targeting the head/neck but can't help landing on the quarterback? Safety should be paramount, but the letter of the law here seems too strict.
The rules committee isn't always real predictable in things that they emphasize and things they add and so forth. And so that would be really difficult for me to predict. I don't think there's an appetite for it, but I mean, I think there might be from coaches, but there is such a sentiment for player safety and erring on the side of player safety that I don't know that the people that are in charge of this are necessarily going to want to roll that back.
Yeah, and especially with player safety as it relates to quarterbacks. Like I don't know the last time a rule like went against the quarterback. Like I think there's more and more rules that protect quarterbacks as we move forward, and I just don't see that going the other way. I mean, I understand that folks don't always agree with the way that rule is applied, and I think it's kind of silly too. I feel like it's just become part of the game. When you watch enough football games, I feel like you expect one roughing the passer penalty that just makes you scratch your head because you're like, really, what are they supposed to do? But I just don't see it sort of going back in a different direction than that.
They may even institute a rule that if you're going to hit the quarterback that hard, you have to provide a pillow for his head to land on.
And say sorry once you're done.
Yes. Say sorry, and I mean it.
All right. Well, that is it for this week's episode of the Third and Goal podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcast homes. Search for Notre Dame Football with Eric Hansen and Tyler James if you're not already subscribed to us on the proper feeds. And we have plenty of written content over at blueandgold.com to get you ready for the NC State game. So stick with Blue and Gold for all your Notre Dame coverage needs.